Welcome to episode 1 of Pappy Hour.
And we're live.
I'm your host. I'm Patrick Earnshaw, aka Pappy, and this is my daughter Jessica Earnshaw, aka Peanut.
Howdy, folks.
And together we are going to bring an hour of great entertainment.
Hour or so.
An hour or so. We're going to talk about great topics.
A lot of stories to tell.
About a lot of different things, but today we're just going to start with us and who we are, where we came from, and what we've been doing for the last 54 years of my life.
Yeah, a lot of stories to tell. If anyone has ever met Pappy, they know that he has lived a plethora of he just has a plethora of stories to tell. He's been standing on the floor of Summit for the past 30 years, talking to people, and has traveled the world, done a lot of cool stuff. Read a lot of books, done a lot of cool things.
But it's really all going to come down to the stories, because one of my favorite bumper stickers is poor decisions late at night make for the best stories. And there was always some bad decisions that turned out to be some great stories.
Yeah.
But we're going to have fun with this podcast, and we're going to bring it to you once a week. And it's going
Why
to be...
am I nervous right now? It's out of our comfort zone doing something like this,
We've been talking about it, for the last year.
No, a month maybe.
We've been really talking about it for the last couple of months. I started a 31-year uniform retail management owner...
Shout out Summit Uniforms.
Career in 1992, and just retired at the end of July after a little over 31 years. So enjoying a bit of the last couple of months of retirement, and we going to just start from
this is the
beginning.
First project post Summit career, and I like it just came to me. I feel like I've listened to so many podcasts for so many years, and it just made so much sense. Like, you were kind of trepidatious at the beginning, and I feel like the way I really sold it to you was some of your most prized possessions are your
stories.
Well, are your grandparents and your great grandparents and their great grandparents. Like, you really are invested in the history of our family.
I am. And
you have journals and books and clothes and anything you can get your hands on and keep. You've never gotten rid of anything that has belonged to your great grandparents, and we can get into their life stories and whatnot later. But how cool is it?
And we together are the caretakers of the family history.
Yeah, and this is a way for all of your stories, your personality really to be recorded, because my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids, I think how cool would it be if you could hear your great grandpa's voice and his stories and his insights from when he was, tromping around the world doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so that really is like the mission of this podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to just get stories down. We have low expectations. Shout out Mima, who's probably listening right now, our number one listener. And Mom. And
we're live here in San Diego, sunny San Diego. We've got great weather out there today, and we will be bringing all the podcasts taped right here in San Diego in our home.
Right in front of all your favorite books that you've collected over your whole life.
I'm sitting in front of a collection of books that started when I was a young man, when kids would buy, in my travels, when other kids would buy a toy or, candy, I always seemed to buy a book. And I would always bring home 1 or 2 or 5 books from every trip I took. And
Mima has gifted you a book every year on your birthday, Christmas.
I've had a lot of books as gifts. And the books have sometimes been hard to manage. There's a lot of them. But it's a collection that you see less and less books sold all the time. And I think books are a snapshot in the time. So you can read about something that was written 30 or 40 years ago, and you can get a feeling of the period and why it was written at the time, and from that perspective. So
yeah,
I think
they never change.
yeah, and Wikipedia changes all the time. In a book, a history book, written about World War I in 1932, it'll never change.
Yeah, and you
And
finally
that's
have
important.
time to start reading some of these books. Because how many of these books would you say that you've actually read front cover to cover?
Oh, I can't admit to that.
You're a thumber.
All of them, really.
You're a thumber.
Very, yeah. I've perused many of the books.
All of the books.
I'm not a big cover to cover reader.
You get what you get what you need.
Sitting
You
down.
get the gist.
Yeah, sitting down, reading a book cover to cover is tough for me.
Yeah.
I think the last book I read cover to cover that I really enjoyed was Killing Patton. And it was a fascinating book about World War II, all sorts of different
I'm looking
figures.
For it. It's up there somewhere.
Other than General Patton. He was a big part of the book, but it was also about the Third Reich and Hitler and and the English, the Americans, everyone that was involved in World War II. And I did read that cover to cover. It was like 400 pages. So I was kind of proud of myself for that one.
Good job.
So we're going to work on reading more books.
I just finished
Cover to
Seven
cover.
Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. I cried like a baby at the end. So highly recommend. But yeah, so this is where we're at.
Let's
San
start from the
Diego.
beginning.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Let's go back. So you retired. You sold Summit.
We'll get to that. Let's start from the beginning of where
you're from.
we both grew up in the same neighborhood.
The Den.
Jessica was
out.
luckily raised in the same neighborhood I was, the Almaden Valley of
Best
South San Jose.
Place to grow up.
It was a great place to grow up in the 70s and 80s for me,
And 2000s for me.
and a great place to grow up for you. Where
Yeah.
else can you cook around in a golf cart on the streets of your neighborhood at about 12 or 13 years old and not get thrown into jail? So that was pretty good.
I know. God.
I graduated from Leland High School, 1988, class of 88, and Jessica was class of 15 at Presentation High School.
Go Panthers.
Some great memories there. I then graduated
We went to
from
the same elementary school,
elementary school,
Simon's.
Simon's Elementary School,
and we both went to Castellero.
Castellero Middle School.
And I was set to go to Leland, but I got convinced to go private and play softball because I thought I was going to be a D1 softball player, which didn't end up happening, but wouldn't change a thing. I had the best time at Pres, even though it was an all-girls
Yeah.
Catholic school. Everyone always was like, oh, God, how was that? I had the best time. I made the best friends. I played sports. We were terrible, but, had a good time.
And softball, girls softball was a huge part of our life.
Yeah.
And we will probably dedicate an episode just to that. And
Many.
the stories could be 10 episodes, but we wouldn't bore you with all those stories. But we really have some good ones of crazy coaches,
Danny, Tyson.
crazy people involved, crazy moms, crazy dads, and we were on a travel schedule all summer long, so we went all around
Summer, all fall, all spring. It never ended.
All
It was
over the
year
West
round.
Coast.
But no, yeah, those were the best memories. And I was on the Almaden Lightning, so Almaden was such a big part of our lives, and we ended up selling our house on Crystal Springs at May of 2022, right?
Yep.
Yeah, May of 2022. Sold it to the nicest family with 2 little kids who are enjoying that pool. I'm sure have been enjoying that pool all
Yeah,
summer.
that house needed to be with little kids around.
There needed to be kids in that home.
With the girls gone, it needed to move on to the next.
Well, before we lived there, a family of what?
like
Mormons
6
with
lived there.
like 10 kids, right?
Yeah, they had a few.
So that house was just meant to have kids and parties, and just thinking back of how many, not just parties we hosted, but gatherings like post softball games.
That's a good after parties there.
I mean, your 40th birthday, you had how many people there?
There was a lot. Do we count the police officers who showed up and joined the party, or just
Who came in and made plates?
Yeah,
and just hung out.
that was always a good addition to our parties. Were the local San Jose Police Department that would stop by, and stay a while.
Yeah.
So after getting back to after high school, I went off to Chico State, a small school north of Sacramento that in the late 80s was named by Hugh Hefner in Playboy magazine as the #1 party school in the country.
Did you know that when you signed up to go there?
Of course I knew that. That was the #1 reason I went there. Now, it was a great school, and it was in the middle of nowhere.
But close enough to home.
It was close enough to home, and there was just great people there. You could go camping and motorcycle riding and river rafting. We were really close to the outdoors there.
How far was the drive from your home?
It was like a 3-hour drive from San Jose,
Yeah.
so it wasn't too bad. But we also, this was a great advantage, is I think we had 16 graduating seniors from Leland High School that all attended Chico State. I think the number was 16, and that was bigger than any other high school we knew of. So when we got there and all moved into the dorms, we were an instant party everywhere we went.
You were all in the same dorm?
Most of us were in the same dorm. I think maybe 12 of us.
You got any names?
All lived. Oh yeah, it was Whitney Hall. Was the big 9-story building on campus.
Did you have one roommate?
I had one roommate.
Who was it?
It was Craig Butler. And I didn't know him, met him, just random roommate, and we lived together for the next 9 or 10 months.
Yeah.
And that was great. But Whitney Hall was a fun place. We would go river rafting on the Sacramento River. We would go to a place called Bear Hole, where you would just hang out and drink Coors Lights all afternoon, of course with a sober driver.
Of course.
And there was just always something to do there. There was always a good party.
Really good, solid academics was one of your #1 criteria as to why you attended?
Yeah, I would say that would be an episode, but it would probably be a 5-minute episode. The academics at Chico. The academics were great at Chico State. But it was it was a very, very good social.
You were networking.
I was networking from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of networking.
And you joined
I was in a fraternity.
Particular club.
A fraternity, the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity, and had a great time with that. Learned a lot about organization and brotherhood and being part of a team. So that was great. We didn't have the big fraternity parties like in Animal House. Those didn't happen too often. I mean, those were a once a year or twice a year.
What was the occasion once a year? Halloween?
I think our biggest parties at the fraternity house would have been the alumni weekend. Those were always.
When was that?
Some of usually in the spring. It would be either like the dad's Father's Day or just the alumni weekend. But those were always good parties, because I think some of the best drinkers weren't guys in college.
They were the dads.
They were guys after college. I think the drinking and socializing curve gets better in age. So when you're 18 to 22 years old, you think
just
you're
warming
there.
Up.
You think
you're warming up.
Yeah, but you're not there yet. So when you brought in...
Thank God you don't have any boys.
Thank God I have 2 daughters and no
girl
boys.
dad.
Girl dad. Shout out to all girl dads. So after about 4 years at Chico State...
You met someone special there.
Minus a degree. That degree was unobtainable at Chico State. It was just a little too demanding on the social front.
How many...
It was.
It really interfered with what mattered most.
Well, and I'll tell you, the thing that brought me back home was my father and mother both needed help with the family business.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to pursue. And so
How many credits
1992,
did you have left?
Oh, I think I was 3 credits short.
Oh, that hurts me.
Yeah.
That hurts me.
That's
But also, it's a cool testament that, you've had as successful of a career as you can have. You financially provided for your family.
I didn't need a physics degree to go home and do what I did.
But
I needed a social degree.
Well, you were successful on all fronts with Summit. You financially provided. You were appreciated by your community. You felt like you were part of a team, serving your community in the way that you did, in the really unique way that you did. And you're right, you didn't need a degree to do that. So you just went there, learned everything that you needed to learn through life experiences.
Summit Uniforms was a business started by my parents, Joe and Kathy Earnshaw, in 1971, and it started out from the start in, I think, my father's garage or his partner's garage. After a few months and some success, they moved to a little 400 square foot building in Campbell, a city next to San Jose. After a few years of that, they kept growing and they moved to another location, and the business just grew and grew. And
Where was the location when you started working there? Meridian?
no, on Bascom Avenue. We were there for about 10 years, and I grew up there, working there, and probably starting 4th, 5th grade, stocking shoes and folding shirts and trying to start helping customers. And then all through junior high, all my Christmas breaks, summer breaks, my parents paid me a small salary, but it was fun, and I always had a few dollars in my pocket. So it taught me young. And one thing about learning a business, a family business, is learning to work when you're young is a real big advantage, because if you never hold down a job and you go through junior high and high school and college and never really work, it's hard to get going at 22 or 23 years old.
Yeah.
So when you start to work and you know how you have to show up, and you have to show up on time, and you have to do your job and do your tasks, and you learn that at a young age, it is an absolute advantage.
Yeah.
And unfortunately now there's less and less of those family businesses, and it's a disadvantage to your generation that you don't get to grow up around a business and learn that young.
Yeah.
For you,
I mean,
you weren't working, you were playing sports.
Yeah.
So that was like a job.
That's like I feel like if you're not going to be raised around a family business, the next best thing is playing sports to learn teamwork, hard work, showing up on time,
Absolutely.
constructive criticism, being a gracious loser and a gracious winner. There's just infinite life lessons that you learn through sports, whatever one it is you pick. But I loved growing up in Summit. I did work there, I feel like. I priced socks.
Yeah, you did a good job pricing those socks.
And I'll never forget, I think I was young, probably 5 or 6, and we used to have the big vending machine back in the break room.
Yeah.
And I got like an orange soda or something.
Yeah.
And I walked it out to the floor, and I was standing in the middle of probably around some Ike jackets or something.
Build that orange soda.
I didn't spill it. But my record wasn't very good. I was a big spiller.
You were a spiller.
And you were irate at me. Get back. Get back in the back. Off the floor, yeah. So you were in a tight ship, as people can attest to who know you worked with you.
Yeah, I was a big micromanager, but that was out of the love for perfection that my mother and father instilled in me about everything had to be perfect.
Why did Granddaddy start the business?
I think he was looking for another source of income. He was a police officer on the San Jose Police Department. My father your grandfather joined the police department in 1960. And in the 60s, police officers did not make the kind of money they make today. I think, I need to fact check this, but I think his first monthly salary was somewhere in the neighborhood of or maybe it was every 2 weeks, like $400.
Oof.
So it was low. So there was most police officers at that time, the 60s, 70s, and probably 80s, most police officers and firefighters had second jobs.
Really?
Yeah, they could not make it on just their city salary. So almost all of them had a second job. Some of the firefighters had whole second careers going on, because a firefighter usually works about 10 days a month, and those guys would work every day to make ends meet.
So he started Summit still working for the police department?
Still working for the police department full time. And
saw a hole in the market.
And started a small little business.
Was there any other uniform businesses in San Jose?
There were always 2 or 3, and as one would go out, we'd gain a little bit more of the market share, and then slowly the industry people retired and moved on.
So he was the industry and behind the operation and kind of the idea behind the operation. Where did Meemaw come in? What did she contribute?
Meemaw ran the tight ship. She was absolute perfectionist, and that's where I think I did really learn that trait. And she just always demanded 110% and ran a very tight ship. So that was a lot of the success and the growth of the business was through her hard work.
She's a Virgo. I'm a Virgo. You're a Virgo.
Oh man, that's a lot.
I know
of
you're not
Virgos.
into much of the astrology, but one thing about Virgos is they are perfectionists. They like things done a certain way, and they are very organized.
A lot of Virgos. And 31 years later, here we are. We were able to find a buyer for Summit uniforms after 52 years of the Earnshaw's family business, and we found a great buyer, and he has taken the reins and kept the wheel going.
Yep. We wish him all the best.
Wish him all the best.
We want nothing but the best for Summit. We want that to continue serving the community.
We do. It was a really important part. It is, to the day, a very important part of the community of the South Bay area, a large...
Yeah, what was the territory that we...
It was big. It was over half the Bay Area.
Well, so no, we didn't do San Francisco, just south of San Francisco. And then it went up to what, like...
Better than...
Just outside of Sac.
Yeah, better than 3 counties. And we'd always have... what we would have is a lot of people that came from out of the area would stop in and shop or try to shop, and if we could help them. But we really did provide the majority of uniforms for the police department, fire department, all the EMS agencies, the bus system that operates in San Jose, the U.S. Post Office. We did all that for half of the San Francisco Bay Area. So
how many departments total, you think?
Oh, it was usually running about 60 to 70 different agencies we would be working on at one time. So
and you also did like Apple security and other miscellaneous
lots of different security,
public safety stuff.
Yeah. So that has wrapped up, and now we're moving on to the next chapter.
Yeah, this is our first venture post-summit.
Outside of selling uniforms in my whole life.
Literally, you haven't done a single other business venture.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost started a restaurant back in the day.
Oh, that's been hard not to start restaurants.
Yeah.
We love to cook and we love to entertain. So the restaurant, and we love to eat.
Yeah.
And so the restaurant industry is something that
it's been calling your name. But
it's been tapping me on the back.
But that's a hard one. If you
wanted
to get off your feet,
haven't turned around yet.
You wanted to get off your feet. You've been running around Summit, putting in 20,000 steps every day for 31 years, and the restaurant business is
Maybe
not.
We should just buy a sailboat and just start sailing the bay out there.
Yeah,
That'd be really nice.
I'll swab the deck.
A deck swabber.
Yeah.
So where did the nickname Peanut come from? I don't know. That was just. I
was a small baby.
She was a small little girl, and
unfortunately
not born with a full head of hair.
Oh.
So with this little perfectly round head, this little wispy hair, she just got the nickname one day, Peanut, and it stuck.
You're the only one who calls me Peanut.
There would be. Well,
my aunt calls me Peanut.
Yeah, and there was fans. Your teammates in softball love the nickname Peanut. So every once in a while they would.
You know who calls me Peanut? Caitlin.
Caitlin
calls me Peanut.
But it's been a good nickname. It wasn't always the best term of endearment. Screaming across a field, "Go
Damn it,
Peanut!" But it stuck, and
yeah,
I wanted to name the podcast "Pappy and the Peanut," but that didn't go over very well.
No, hopefully,
we're on to Pappy Hour.
You're the host. I feel like I'm kind of the co-host, but as this podcast evolves and you get guests in here and your buddies and your friends and whoever, we got to get Mima on. We got to get Mom in here.
We're going to have a lot of guests because I have a lot of friends that have a lot of other good stories.
We got to get Chipper in here and Miles and the whole fam.
Like if everybody out there is enjoying my stories, every one of my friends that I get in, it's just exponentially. And most of these friends will be included in these stories. So it will be a good way to hear it, kind of their side of the story, and the things that I have forgotten.
Yeah.
But we're going to tell a lot of stories. And the other thing that I want to touch on today as the introductory episode is I want to tell the truth on things. I don't want to go into opinions. This is going to be a podcast not to the left, not to the right, and I'm not even going to say in the middle. It's going to be the truth. So if the truth brings you to the left, so be it. And if it brings you to the right, so be it. You can interpret the truth either way. But I want to bring good statistics on events and things happening around us that I think the news does not cover a lot of the times. They want to cover the same flash in the pan event and the names and what happened. But I've noticed they want to say that over and over and over again. And I find myself yelling at the screen, well, what are the numbers? What do the numbers say? So yeah. I'm gonna really enjoy talking about hard numbers of a specific event or a career.
Yeah. I mean, these first few episodes, I feel like we're trying to just get down who you are. Like, we want to talk about a little bit of Summit and kind of where you are in this phase of life. Yeah. We want to talk about, like, I picture
do I always wear a Tommy Bahama shirt? Or is there something else in my wardrobe? That's going to be a big...
Mostly Tommy Bahama.
Yeah, mostly Tommy Bahama.
But I'm thinking, like, if I were to make a vision board of you, what would I put on it? I would put a tri-tip. I would put a map.
A tri-tip and a map.
I would put...
And hopefully the map gets you to the tri-tip.
Yeah, I would put friends and music. You just have so many cool history, like the Civil War. You were a Civil War reenactor. You were in an Academy Award-winning movie as an extra.
Wow.
Which is going to be a whole nother episode.
The whole entire back of my head.
Yeah.
And one blurred vision of the side of my face.
Yeah, your
But
profile.
you really have to know how I look then to see me.
You got to be savvy with the remote to catch him in the film. But that's gonna be a great episode to talk about how you got into Civil War reenacting and kind of your journey through and where that's taken you, and how I think that's something you totally need to reconnect with now in your retirement.
Yeah.
That's you can go start Civil War reenacting again like that.
That
would be so cool.
You sleep on the ground on a little bit of...
We slept on the ground last year when we backpacked Catalina.
I know, but I really prefer a nice Marriott hotel or a nice Hilton bed other than the ground underneath a tent that's soggy. You wake up in a wool blanket.
This is the point, to transport you back into time.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a hard sell, but I will. What
if I go with you? What if I pretend to be your son?
Well, that was a plan at one time. I wanted to dress you up like a little boy and put you in the reenacting.
You wouldn't have to do much dressing up, based on what I looked like in fourth grade.
We didn't.
I would have just fit right.
we never got there.
Oh my God! So that's a bucket list thing.
Yeah, Civil War reenacting was a big part of my growing up. I started doing it when I was the beginning of my freshman year in high school. So I was 15 years old. And this was in about 1984. Mm-hmm. So my mom was extremely trustworthy. Most of these gentlemen I hung out with were all veterans, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And knew deep down they were a good bunch of guys, and just kind of set me off. It was like going to boot camp at 15 years old.
Modern day.
Yeah, it really did two things quickly for me that I don't think I would have done that quickly.
Can I say the first one?
Yeah.
It made you not a picky eater.
Yes, I ate everything. Because when you grow up in an affluent neighborhood with parents that cook, you're really never hungry, right?
Well, did Mima cook or did Mima heat?
Yeah, Mima cooked. But what I'm saying is that you go from a breakfast, and then you go eat your school lunch or out of a paper bag, and you come home to dinner. So
and it's all bland. It's all the same flavors.
And you raid the cookie cabinet and eat potato chips after school. So you're really never that hungry. Well, with Civil War reenacting, if you didn't eat the food, most of the time it was a 3-day event, you were hungry. So you had
never experienced hunger.
I never experienced hunger. And
That's a character builder.
they say hunger is the best spice. It makes everything taste better. So I would come home, and I think my parents saw this evolve slowly, but I would come home, maybe after 3 or 4 of these events. We usually go out once a month for maybe a 10-month season. And I would come home and I just stopped complaining about food, and I just started eating different things. And
you were also growing.
They were
going through puberty.
I was growing. My 8th grade year, I'd grown like 6 inches, so I was a pretty tall, lanky kid.
That was
15.
me in middle school. I had a giant growth spurt in middle school.
Yeah, you copied my growth spurt.
Yeah.
So I came home and I started eating everything, and I did also learn maybe not to complain as much, because when you're around a bunch of old veterans reenacting the Civil War, no one there.
Life's good.
No one there wanted to hear you complain. Yeah. You didn't really. They didn't come to you in the morning and say, "Now, was everything okay, Patrick? Did you have a good night's sleep? Was the breakfast okay?" You just got in line and marched and put your uniform on and went and reenacted a battle. So it was a really valuable lesson to learn during my high school years.
Yeah, that was such a character builder for you. And so that will be a great episode to really dive into all that. You have some
Talk about some of the reenactments.
You have amazing stories. I mean, the movie he was in was...
No, we're not going to reveal that.
Oh,
we're going to save that. That's going to have to be titled that episode.
Okay. I like it.
I was an extra in a film filmed on location in the Midwest.
That won an Academy Award.
That won an Academy Award. That had a great lead actor who happened to be also the director. We'll get to that.
Any guesses?
Nope.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. So
we'll leave it. Because there's some really good stories with that trip.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some medieval stories. There's some hilarious stories, and I did learn some really good life lessons. On that one. And I was a little older. I was in college, so I was pretty much in my prime as a soldier, reenactor.
You were an old soldier.
Yeah, and so. I don't know. We'll name that episode 4, 5, 6.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Down the pipe. These first few ones are just to let everyone kind of get to know you and who you are, and where you've been in life, and then we can start having fun and getting some folks on, and just see where this goes. No expectations really, just getting stories down. In the year 2100, 2200, however much longer we last on our rock, maybe my great grandkids will be on Mars listening to this. Who knows? But
wow,
it'll be.
I don't know if I like Mars. You know why? Because there's not a beach in Mars, and I really like the beach.
Well, maybe they could artificially create it. You put the goggles on, and then you just feel like you're there.
You could have a domed beach.
Yeah.
We're coming live from San Diego, California.
In the year,
and today's date?
October 15th, 2023.
October 15th, 2023. This has been
I just turned 26. You just turned...
54 years old.
54 years young. You're young.
54 years young.
You had me when you were only 27. I cannot imagine having
I was
a child
young
next
dad.
year.
I know. I was a young dad.
Mom was 30.
Mom was 30.
You were 27.
And I was really happy being a young dad.
Yeah, you were always you were full of life. You came home from Summit dog tired, but you still had the life in you. I think you did a really good job of, even though Summit, I don't want to say took a lot out of you, but required a lot from you.
It did. It was a demanding day. I would be out of the chute by 6:30, 7 a.m. and I would usually get home by 6:30, 7 p.m. So it was a good solid 12-hour day every day.
Yeah, you put 12-hour days in, and you would come home, and you did a really good job of compartmentalizing.
Thank God you played competitive sports, because coaching was the only thing that really got me out of those 12-hour days.
Yeah, it was your excuse, because like, it's my kids, I got to be there.
Yeah, I wasn't going out like saying, hey, I've got to meet the guys for golf, or we're going to a bar to drink.
You're terrible at golf.
I'm terrible at golf. I'm a better drinker than I am a golf. I started playing golf at 9 years old, and I'm still terrible.
Yeah.
But it really allowed me to get away from that and go do something that...
outside with your kids.
And those stories...
Meet all my friends' parents. I mean, your best friends. We're about to book a trip with them. You're still super tight. You just did Fleet Week with all them.
Yes, we just got back from a weekend in San Francisco, watching an incredible display by the Blue Angels. And Fleet Week, I've been to many air shows, but there's just something special about watching the Blue Angels and the entire air show, watching them, watching an F-35 do a hot lap around Alcatraz. That's a pretty good scene.
You guys had really good weather too. It was
Beautiful
super
weather.
clear.
It was crystal clear. The Blue Angels Friday and Saturday did epic shows, just dogfighting over the city of San Francisco. And then Sunday the fog came in and they did their B show, which was still very impressive.
But you got to hang out with, my best friends in the world I met through softball, Tot, Caitlin, all those guys. And still to this day, long after we stopped playing softball, you're friends with their parents' friends. It's such a solid group of people that really was kind of the gift that kept on giving.
If you want to bring a group of people together, I think travel sports does it because
highs and lows.
You're all cheering on your kid.
You're on the same team.
You're coaching your kid. You're cheering them on, but you're traveling pretty much a whole summer, and you're going from hotel to hotel, spending 2 or 3 nights. So you're eating together.
Yep.
You're traveling together, driving together.
You would cook for all of us and barbecue for all of us. It really was like.
Yeah, we'd smuggle in a barbecue to the hotel, and we'd go in the back parking lot and queue up a couple tri-tips.
That was such a hit.
Yeah, we really had.
I had the best childhood. And
that's great to hear.
All the friends that we met, you guys met through there, I met through there. Just the gift that keeps on giving. So that, those people are so special, so funny, such a good time. It's always positive, A
lot of laughters.
A lot of laughter.
Yes.
You guys basically took over the hotel this past weekend at Fleet Week.
Yeah, we reenacted some old softball days this weekend of playing music and dancing in the room and shutting down. One night we shut down the bar and we outlasted the bartender. So we had played some dice games down in the bar and we kept playing and they shut down and left us there. So we did close down that bar.
Yeah. So you did a really good job as a dad and as a business owner, compartmentalizing, and as a coach. First base, your windmill arm that you would do, go.
I was not a very good softball coach.
You were a really good Gatorade provider. You always had a full cooler full of ice, ice cold, snacks ready, tri-tips grilling. You just always thought one step ahead. And so when I was tired, you had Gatorade ready for me. When I was hungry, you had food ready for me.
But I wasn't very good about making up a lineup. I was always the assistant coach. I was never the head coach.
You just wanted in on the action.
Yeah, I was a really good assistant coach.
Yeah, and who was your favorite head coach that you were behind?
Oh, the general, old Pete. He was a great softball coach, and I was a great assistant to him. So it kind of made me a great coach, but I was a great assistant coach.
It's kind of similar to your role that you played at Summit too. You weren't in the police force, but whatever the police force need, you had it ready for them and provided for them. You were one of the bricks that the police rested upon. That they needed you.
Well, without us
and fire and EMT and
the
park
calls,
rangers.
The calls would have been served. The people would have been protected, but we all know they would not have looked as good.
Yeah, you made them look pretty sharp.
You made them look good.
Yeah.
I was like a designer, like a fan. I used to say that from time to time. I'd say, why am I making these custom uniforms, making my little margin on them? I should be designing ladies' dresses, selling them for $5,000. Yeah, that would have been really good.
But you have such an eye. Now, obviously you could go toe to toe with anyone in the entire world when it comes to tactical uniforms and police uniforms. And no, that's from that company, that's from there. Why is there? Why is that stripe there? That pin needs to be there. The collar's not pressed. The pants look shaggy. It doesn't fit right on you. Women need this shape. Men need this shape. Like, you are truly an expert in that field. And you
Well,
walked
thank you,
away from
Jessica.
it. So I hope down the line that some sort of opportunity, who knows, will present itself that you can tap into that without doing the things where Summit took a lot out of you, like the 12-hour
Maybe
days
when
on
you
your
have
feet.
children, they'll get into Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, and I'll have them be
You'll
the best
trick 'em
looking.
out?
Oh yeah, they'll be like the slickest Boy Scout or Girl
They'll
Scout.
be just dripping in swag.
Yeah, that's
I was a
one
terrible
thing-
Girl Scout, so I don't know about that.
one thing that we did do whenever we traveled. We'd always critique every other market's uniforms. Remember?
Yeah.
We'd say, "Oh my gosh, look at how baggy their pants are. Look at how saggy that crotch is. It's all the way down to the knee. Their sleeves are too long. It's off their shoulder." We would critique everyone.
When you'd go to conventions with Mima?
No, when we go just travel and we'd look at other public safety, we'd
Departments.
see the police department or a park ranger.
Yeah.
And we always took good pride in saying that our region looked better in uniforms than almost anywhere else.
Yeah. And a question I wanted to ask you was, what is it when you came into the picture, when you graduated college and you came back home, you were working full time, you kind of took the reins.
Yep.
What is it that you implemented, processes and procedures, that was different, was new, was innovative, that took Summit kind of to that next level? Because it was already established, but then
Yeah.
when you came around, you really stepped it up.
We got a little bump, and I think I knew we were, the accounts and the customers were there. I think I just took it to another level on customer service. I always wanted to run things as did Nordstrom's, right? Whenever you walked into Nordstrom's, and I didn't do a lot of shopping there growing up, but my mom and my sister did.
And Mom did.
Yeah. So I knew that when you have a problem at Nordstrom's, it's not a problem for long. They solve it. They return the merchandise. They fix it. So that would be probably the one thing I based my customer service on. The customer's always right. You fix it, and you don't blame someone else for your problem. And that's a good life lesson too that I've always tried to apply is don't blame anyone else for your problems. If you have a problem, fix it.
Take accountability.
Take accountability. Mend the relationship. Mend the problem. Get the problem fixed and move on.
Yeah.
Right? And move on.
Yeah, you did a good job at that.
And a great line is put your boots on, put your big boy pants on, your big girl pants, whatever you're gonna do, but march ahead. And so,
Yeah, I worked there in some stints. Like I worked there when I was home in college going to West Valley for probably a year, solid year I worked there.
Yeah.
I worked there a little bit off and on in high school.
That's when you knew that you didn't want to do that for the rest of your life.
I feel bad saying that because,
Yeah,
no.
me
and Mom Granddaddy had 4 grandkids, and
0 for 4.
but I just
Everything always works
I don't
out.
think everything always works out, and I do have a little bit of guilt for, as the oldest
Yeah.
grandkid for not wanting to take over, but I also feel like it was just meant to be, and I can't force anything, and I saw how much it required of you.
Yes.
And as someone who wants to be a mother, it just wasn't in the cards.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And everything, most great businesses always change hands from generation to generation, and they move on and they morph and they keep marching.
They evolve.
Keep marching.
So
that's what we want to do. We want to keep going. Plus, I didn't want to have one career my whole life.
I know. If you didn't retire, there was
have
no
10 more
way.
careers.
There was no way you were gonna not. There was no way you were gonna stay around and keep your hands off Summit. If you still owned Summit, you were gonna be there every day doing the thing. You couldn't separate without making a full separation.
Yeah. I mean, that's like getting a new puppy and saying you can't pet it. You can't help it. You can't help it. You're gonna go pet the puppy.
Speaking of puppies, we need one.
Did I parlay that into new puppies? We had
need
two
one.
great puppies. We are big fans of the King Charles
Cavaliers. Coco and Chloe, the lights and loves of our life, are in doggy heaven with Gus, our Labrador, who you had. What did you get, Gus?
I got Gus in 1993.
From Gustine, California.
You know, he's born in Gustine, California.
Real original with the name.
And so he became Gus, and I bought him. I was in the market for a dog. I hadn't had a dog since my childhood dog had passed while I was in college.
Did you know which one you wanted? You wanted a lab?
I did. I wanted a lab.
Yeah.
I'd done a fair amount of duck hunting, and so I thought I wanted a duck dog.
Retriever.
Yeah, so I got a great duck retriever, but I failed to train him properly, so he became a great lap dog.
Gus became a great toy retriever from the pool.
Oh gosh, he would. You could not stop throwing a ball for that dog in the pool.
He would dive down to the bottom of the pool.
He lived in the pool, and he would. I did train him to go fetch things 7 feet in the deep end at the bottom of the pool. That was a great party favor. Everybody at a barbecue couldn't believe how
he'd come and shake off.
He was like a scuba diver.
Well, so why wasn't he good at duck hunting if he could do that?
He would have been a good duck hunter, but I had started working a little more and duck hunting a lot less.
Yeah.
And he wasn't trained.
Yeah, he was a good dog. He snapped at me one time, and then a decision was made to snip him.
Fixed.
Snip him.
That was a bad decision for him.
And a good decision for your daughters.
Can you imagine if one decision got you fixed every time?
Yeah.
I think
he was forever changed.
The men of the world would be a lot less aggressive. If you snapped at someone, you had to get fixed. But a great story about buying Gus. Let's tell that story.
Yeah,
so it was 1993.
You were dating Mom.
I was dating Mom, and I went to a CWA dinner, a California Waterfowl Association dinner, and it was in the town of Los Banos. And I was in the market for a dog, but I wasn't ready. I didn't have a kennel set up. I had no food. I really had no game plan at all. But unfortunately, I was sitting at a table with about 14, 16 guys from the duck club. And I had mentioned that I really wanted a dog, and I was going to start looking at dogs. Well, lo and behold, the main item of auction that night was 8-week-old Gus.
Oh.
And he was this little perfect little specimen of a little fat-bellied yellow lab. He turned out to be a 100-pound Labrador, so he was a big puppy and as cute as can be.
Was it love at first sight?
It was absolute love.
You saw him and you were like, I need him.
Fell in love. Only second to falling in love with Mom.
Oh.
So I just said, that's it. He's a dog. So, of course, he was the last item to be auctioned off. So they auctioned, this rifle, this trip, this picture, this print, and it came up the last one. Well, my table, when they knew I was going to start bidding on the dog, all night they kept feeding me beer after beer and trying to rile me up. So
which you happily accepted.
I admit that when it was time for the auction, I was a bit inebriated. I was feeling no pain.
Just a bit.
And I had I had a small platoon behind me to cheer me on. And so the bidding started, and I wasn't going to walk out of there without Gus. So the bidding started at $200, and more people dropped out, and just every time it was my turn to bid, they were egging me on. So there was one woman in the back who was bidding against me, and we were going back and forth. And every time she stood up, I think the front 3 or 4 tables were maybe some boos or hisses, and every time I stood up to counter her bid, eruption. So I was now pot committed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the bidding stopped, I think, at about $650 or $675. Now, labs at that time were going for about $400. I probably would have paid $2,000 because I wasn't stopping.
Yeah.
And after I won the final ding and the sold to the winner, they literally went and got Gus and put him in my lap, gave me a couple pieces of paper, which were his papers for being a thoroughbred dog, and a small baggie of dog food.
That's all
dry
they
food.
gave you?
Yeah.
No leash, no collar?
No leash, no collar.
No bed.
No how-to book. So it was like someone handing you a baby and be like, okay, good luck
to you.
Yeah, good luck. So I took my Uncle Mick, who was kind of my partner in crime. He taught me how to duck hunt.
Second father figure.
Second father figure. Taught me how to duck hunt at about 12 years old. So I was in the passenger seat, put me in there. I was holding Gus and got back to the duck club where we would spend the night. And again, no kennel, no doggy bed.
What kind of bed are we talking? Are you in a bunk or something?
I'm in a bunk. I'm in a bunk in an old 1950s trailer that was the duck club trailer. It was just
luxury.
Yeah, it was really a special place. So I have Gus and he's sleeping on my lap. I'm sorry, sleeping on my chest.
And you're completely sober, obviously.
I'm in a really good deep sleep. I had a long day, a long night, and I'm sleeping well. We'll just put it at that. So Gus had a long night too, because that was the first time he had left his mother. He was 8 weeks old, and he wasn't going back to his mom. So it was a traumatic night for him. And then he got passed around by 300 people at the fairgrounds. So he was tuckered, and Gus was sleeping on my chest. And in the middle of the night, I was having a dream that I myself was wetting my bed. Well, it wasn't me. It was Gus wetting me. And I woke up and jumped out of my wet sleeping bag and brought him outside and let him continue his doing his business.
Oh.
And that was the start of a 13-year relationship with
he was the best dog.
With Gusser, the yellow lab.
Yeah, full 13 years. And you brought him home and you told Mom that you had a surprise for her. And you had been dating a couple years, so she was anxiously awaiting the ring.
Yeah.
And you showed up with a puppy.
I showed up with a puppy. It was not it was kind of like an engagement ring. I think it was better.
It was kind of like you brought home your first child.
Exactly.
It was a commitment.
It was seeing things that were to come.
Yeah. And she has her own stories about Gus, how she used to try to walk him and he would just drag her because he was so strong.
He was a very strong, very active dog. She did tell a story about how she had to body slam him and lay on top of him because he wanted
rear naked choke him in the middle of the street.
He wanted to get at a poodle across the street.
It was not stopping.
Well, we have a nice addition that our viewers aren't going to see on camera, but right now, I believe the Ronald Reagan is entering the harbor in San Diego, and the aircraft carrier Reagan is coming on in from. It's not from deployment, but out for a few days on the waters.
We are blessed here with this home that I think found us. I want to say, I've lived here a couple years now. We were meant to live in this home.
Yes.
We can talk. That's a whole nother episode about how we found this home and the history of this home.
And the great men and women who have lived here.
Yeah, and really some incredibly historic figures that have lived here, especially historic to the city of San Diego. So we have a view out that way of basically all of Coronado, all of the air base there, the channel, so we get to watch the ships
watch the Ronald Reagan just peruse in the harbor.
And, I mean, couldn't find a better place for you who loves watching planes, automobiles, ships, watching the fighter jets.
Fighter jets take off and do their business.
Yeah, and as people who have always enjoyed hosting, that's a big part of our family and our personality too, is hosting.
We like to cook dinner.
We love to host. Not just the cooking part. We love to cook, but just we're people.
When you were in high school, did all your friends all agree that you had the best hosting party house?
Yeah. I mean, we had
some
we
really
had New
good
Year's
parties.
where we had a 1-inch thick layer of beer in the
Well, that's
living
when you
room.
thought it was okay to play beer pong on a hardwood floor.
In the home, yeah.
Yeah.
I learned.
You
so
learned.
then we
Good life
navigated
lesson.
to the great life lesson. Navigated to the garage. I had our senior prom after party there,
Yeah.
which was about 60 to 70 people.
Yeah.
We had a keg. We had
a
4th
keg-
of July
we had a keg-
parties.
We had a keg for the adults.
We had a keg for the adults that
Yeah,
I smuggled and claimed as my own.
Yeah.
We had our 4th of July parties. Basically, was a combo party with our neighbors. So it
4th of July parties were good.
was like a compound.
It was
Between
known
our
that
two houses.
some people in the neighborhood would actually come around our house and light off illegal fireworks.
Yeah,
But we
others
never
came.
figured out who they were.
No, others would come to our home and light them off, and we just were like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
That was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the fireworks show. Some of
Yeah.
the biggest in our neighborhood.
Yeah. Also, strangers would come around when like the Giants would win the World Series, and light fireworks off.
They'd have fireworks left over from 4th of July.
Yeah, and
was amazing.
There was just hooligans.
Those
really.
were really good fireworks too. I think a lot of them were from the Midwest.
And
because
why were we in the Midwest?
They,
Softball, baby.
someone was in the Midwest, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, someone was in the Midwest, and some of those really good South Dakota fireworks found their way to San Jose.
Yeah.
It's like a song. Show me the way to San Jose. And the fireworks.
They would find their way to hole 3.
Yeah. That's something that I think I have. It's definitely one of my top 5 experiences in my world is fireworks. I would watch them any day, anytime.
Big explosion guy.
The closer, the better. Fireworks for me, if you're far away and you don't hear, if you can't feel that rumble in your stomach, then they're just like watching TV. It's not about the colors. It's not about
You
the
like to feel like
shapes.
you're in a war zone, which is
I want to feel like I'm sitting next to a piece of artillery, which I have. I've sat next to a 155 millimeter howitzer, and that was probably the best fireworks show I ever saw.
yeah.
So fireworks are a big part of our life.
That also goes on the vision board for your personality. Fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks. And it started as a little kid. I just we used to grow up going to the Santa Clara County Fair. That was a big deal. And in those days, it was a long fair. It went on for like 3 weeks. So pretty much, if you were a kid, you would either work there or you would go there often, and you would go there with your parents, and you would always stay into the evening. And they launched, by 9 o'clock. It was summer in San Jose, so it didn't get dark till about 9 o'clock. But, by 9:30, every night, they lit up the skies with fireworks. And
Every night?
Every night. Every
Dang.
night, fireworks.
Like
So
Disneyland.
any type of 4th of July celebration, any ball game with fireworks, it always
Just makes your
made-
day.
Yeah, any good event. I mean, that's how you could say any great event is just made better with fireworks.
Yeah. So that was our favorite holiday of the year
Oh, 4th of July?
to host.
The best.
You made a pig one year. You and Ken.
We cooked a pig. Yeah, we
You
cooked a
and
pig.
Ken, and it was, I remember in our garage, I was in there by myself. I'm like, what's in this cooler?
The pig was hanging from the garage rafter.
Well, it was in the cooler first, and I was like,
Oh, yeah. We
Terrified.
marinated it in a cooler.
you brined it, and then you
Brined it.
hung it, and then you cooked it in a pit. Did you dig a hole?
We dug a hole and we cooked it in a little
That's so crazy.
a pit. And
In suburban Almaden, you dug a pit and cooked a pig.
no, we didn't dig the pit. We had a box. My partner in crime, Kenny, found a pig box that you put the banana leaves, and it was half in the ground, half in this box.
And I invited
But
50 of my closest friends to.
Yeah, you were always good for getting our guest list really high.
Yeah.
And if you invited 50, 52 came. Yeah, or if you invited 50, 75 came.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when we decided that we needed to tone down the party when you had about 50 people in the pool.
Oh, God.
Of which half of them were in the spa at the same time. And
God, that's good memes.
yeah,
Those are good times.
Yeah, we definitely had some good party times in the Almaden Valley.
I know. And so from hosting home now to this home, the vibe is a little bit more cool, calm, and collected. We're not as...
We've graduated.
Yeah.
We graduated from the fraternity house.
So now we're kind of in our more chill phase of life.
This isn't the old folks' home,
No.
but this is the middle years.
This is we're kind of toning it down.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity. I don't even know 50 people now.
Those were our go-go years. This is our slow-go years.
Yeah. Like I'm hosting here Friendsgiving in a couple of weeks.
That's a good
This will
event.
be our 5th annual Friendsgiving. 4th one we've hosted here.
Yeah.
And I got all my homies from San Jose flying in, Todd, Caitlin, Megan Logston, all the people. And that's just always such a fun time. I make the turkey. Vanessa makes the green bean casserole. And that's just always such a fun time.
Yeah. Big turkey.
Friendsgiving.
So we're going to wrap up this edition, episode.
We just hit an hour.
This edition. It's not really an edition. It's an episode.
It's an episode.
It's an episode. But we're going to wrap up this episode.
We just hit 1 hour. We didn't know if we were going to make it, but I mean, I feel like we could keep talking for
I think I can talk for about 100 hours. So once we get to the 100th episode, then I'll have to go out and create some new stories.
You'll have to start creating content by going out and doing crazy things.
We're going to have a lot of good guests on this show too. We've got some really good guests. Some maybe will be known out there as pseudo celebrities, and others will be sleepers. So we'll salt and pepper that in as we see fit.
So excited! I'm excited to get our family members on here, like you and Miles, your cousin Miles. You guys have grown up together, and you have infinite amount of stories. You guys might have to do like a 3-hour episode. We can chunk it up, but like Mima, like your mom, like
my mother.
She basically has dedicated her entire life to genealogy and researching and piecing together our family tree.
Yeah,
which
goes back a long way.
Goes right together because she graduated with a journalism degree from San Jose State in the first year they let women attend San Jose State?
I don't know that. I think it was a
It
little
was
bit.
like one of the first few years.
It was a little bit beyond that, but it was early. It was in the early 60s.
Yeah, and she got her degree in journalism, and she's used it basically to piece our family tree together. And so I really want her to come on and to talk about her life's work. And she discovered our family in Ireland.
And a shout out, you are a daughter of the American Revolution.
I am. Her favorite association club, whatever
Shout
you want
out
to call
the
it.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yep, you have to prove your lineage that you're related to someone who fought in the American Revolution, which is really cool. She proved that. She got all the receipts.
You're proven like 3 times.
I know. Mima has all the receipts. She does the work. She'd travel around the country. She'd go to Boston and sit in the library all day.
You know what that is? That's your pedigree.
Oh.
Yeah, that's called your pedigree.
She flew to Ireland.
You're like
and
a Labrador.
When did she find? Mima has my papers. When did she fly to Ireland to find?
In the
She discovered
80s.
our family in Ireland by walking around to cemeteries and dusting off gravestones.
That's another episode. We have a wonderful family in Ireland that we reconnected
adore.
with them in the 1980s. And
they're coming here in March, so we're getting them on the pod.
Oh, my cousin Sarah will definitely be a guest.
She's
she
a
is
hoot.
a hilarious girl, and we can't wait. So we're signing off as Daughter of the American Revolution.
We'll wrap that up.
Pappy here. It is great to have any and all who are listening and new followers, but we really hope to entertain you 1 hour a week.
All right.
Okay.
We'll leave you with that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that this podcast brings some positivity, some laughs, some smiles, and stay tuned for more.
Great to meet you all.